All right, guys, you'll have to bear with me a little bit. I am a little hoarse today. I lost my voice from dry heaving after this morning's workout. It had been a little while since I did that. Felt good to do it today. I'm kind of proud of myself. I pushed pretty hard this morning. What I want to talk about today actually has something to do with that, not puking, but ways in which the CrossFit training methodology keeps you more fit and younger biologically as you age that no other training method, I believe, does, or does it at least as well as CrossFit does. So there's a couple things. One is, and you've probably heard this recently, Peter Attia has talked about this a lot on his podcast. Andrew Huberman has talked about this, even Joe Rogan a little bit, is as we age, what we lose quickest is our speed and our power. And that has to do with the fast twitching nature of our muscles and our range of motion at our joints. We lose range of motion. I was talking to Michael Taylor about this the other day. I remember when sprinting, it felt like I was floating for most of the time. It felt like I was barely touching the ground, these long strides. And again, you couldn't keep it up for very long, but while you were at that peak speed, you're just gliding over the ground. Feels much more like I am churning when I do that these days. And I have fought to keep my stride length as long as possible, but it is definitely shortened. Here I am at 51 than when I was like 36. 100% it has. And so you lose range of motion, and you also lose that explosive power as you age. The next thing you lose right after that is strength. I think there are a lot of training methods that will help you keep your strength. If I was just going to Lifetime and I was doing the machine circuits and doing some bench and doing some squats, doing some dumbbell work, I think I could keep most of my strength, or I could keep as much of my strength as a lot of training methods. And so I think there's a lot of ways you can keep your strength as you age. And I think that is the difference. When I've talked about CrossFit being the fountain of youth, I think there's a difference at that peak level from being someone who, you know what, that person looks really good for their age and something to be proud of. Or what I think you see with occasional CrossFit individuals is, man, that person looks good and that person can do stuff that would be good at any age. I don't care that they're 60. There are 20-year-olds that would want their body. There would 20-year-olds that would want to perform like that person can perform. And it is because of the explosive and power and speed nature of CrossFit training. Even in today's workout, I'm doing butterfly pull-ups. I'm doing explosive power cleans repeatedly. Then you're doing the strength with the front squat and then explosive push jerks overhead, and we're doing that over and over and over again. And we do all kind of explosive movements like that in CrossFit routinely. We're doing really high box jumps. I heard Peter Attia say how he can't jump half as high as he used to. And I was like, well, I can. I can't jump quite as high as I used to, but I can still easily jump onto a 30-inch box, and I can jump pretty close to as high as I used to. And I'm pretty proud of that fact, that at 51, if you set a 30 or a 33-inch box in front of me, I'm not going to get afraid of it. Yeah, I can jump on top of that. And that's what I feel like I know for sure CrossFit trains specifically and routinely, that I don't think any other regular training methodology out there is going to hit quite as much. And so you may keep your strength, you may keep your body fat percentage down as you age, but that explosiveness, that athleticism that we train, when people come into CrossFit and they've worked out other ways, I see it all the time. They don't move explosively like we do in different directions and with different limbs, and we do that a lot. And it gives us the ability to learn how to do new things very quickly, which is another thing that as you age, it's harder and harder to learn new sports, new athletic activities, because our neurons, our neurological system is just kind of set in place. It doesn't adapt. Your nervous system always adapts very slowly, and as you age, it's even slower. But because we're testing that all the time with the variety of what we do, and one day I'm jumping on a box, and the next day I'm jumping over a PVC, and the next day I'm jumping over these blocks on the ground. We do it in different ways, and that keeps your nervous system biologically younger too, because it's having to learn how to coordinate your body to move in different directions at different times. And that kind of athleticism just transfers to everything in life, and is what we associate with young athletes that you don't see in the older generation, but you do with the older generation that does CrossFit regularly. So that is one of the ways I think CrossFit is unique in its ability to keep you as biologically young as possible for as long as possible. I was listening to Joe Rogan the other day, and he was saying, man, 25 years ago, there weren't guys like me. Because, Joe Rogan's almost 60, and he looks great for his age. And I will say, with social media, I was talking to Janelle about this. Whatever started first, I think it was MySpace or Facebook. When that started, I don't think anybody had any idea what kind of Pandora's box we were opening up that was going to change the world forever. And now a world without social media is something we can't imagine. And frankly, in my opinion, as a net whole, it's been a negative. If I could get rid of it, I would. But we've opened Pandora's box. We're not getting rid of it. And I think there are a lot of positives that do come from it. And some of that being, you can find the other outliers out there. And there's becoming more of them because you see, for those of us that have a really high standard for how we want to age, you can find the others out there that are doing it even better than you as motivation. Because when I walk around in the world, I don't ever see other 51-year-olds that can do what I can do. And I'm not bragging, it's a sad state of affairs on the world. But it feels good to be it this way. But I am very aware of other 51-year-olds and older than me that have already way beyond what I am even doing right now. In the gym, I've got Jason, who did better than me on today's workout. I will say there's Jeremy at Elite CrossFit that I'm aware of that's my age that is routinely doing stuff. I'm like, geez, I wish I could do that. And there's another one, Craig Howard at Diablo CrossFit. I think that's in Arizona. And he's about 10 years older than me. He's a little older than 60. And if we ever did a competition against each other, I will definitely say the smart money would be on Craig. He is an amazing athlete. And there he is at 61 or 62 doing what he's doing. And I love that because it would be very easy to say, if I didn't know any better, this is as good as it gets. But I know it's not. I have evidence all around me that it's not as good as it gets. And we have that for all of us. All of us can find that. Yeah, I'm doing good. And you should be happy and satisfied with that. But also look at how high the bar can be set if you keep pushing what your limits are. If you keep dialing in your diet, dialing in your behavior, and still pushing yourself in the gym. The other way that I think CrossFit is unique in its ability to make you fit, and I saw a clip from Training Think Tank. They did a video on this for a training system, and I'll try and find it and put it in the body of this one so you can look at it. And I was like, man, that doesn't get talked about enough, and they did a really good job, so shout out to them for this. But they were talking about rate pressure product. And what rate pressure product is you take your heart rate at any given training level times your systolic blood pressure. So let me explain blood pressure real quick. We all know like 120 over 80 is a good blood pressure. The higher number is your systolic blood pressure. That's when your heart is beating and they're testing the blood pressure in your arteries when your heart actually beats. And then the diastolic blood pressure is the blood pressure once your heart is not beating, that time in between each beat when the pressure comes down a little bit. They have tested blood pressure on people doing like heavy squats, and they have measured blood pressures of 480 over 350. So again, good healthy blood pressure is 120 over 80. 480 over 350. You would think your arteries would explode, but it shows how good training is for the body because it strengthens your arteries. It strengthens the tensile strength and the elasticity of the arteries and veins, and it strengthens our heart as a muscle. What rate pressure product tests is when we're doing repeated reps with a weight that isn't super heavy, let's say 65 to 70% of your 1 rep max, and you're doing you're doing a max set of bench press with that, or power cleans, or power snatch. You're doing muscular work, but at a weight you can do repetitively over and over, but you can do enough of them that it's going to get your heart rate up. So your heart has to do 2 things. It has to send blood to those working muscles, but it has to be able to beat in such a strong method that it can send blood through these arteries that are experiencing a lot of pressure because they're going continuously over and over and over. Your heart is beating fast and there's a lot of pressure on these arteries, and your heart has to still send blood to them, to the working muscles. This is, again, very related to when I've done other videos talking about stamina in CrossFit. When we talk about doing big sets, of touch and go power cleans, touch and go power snatch, touch and go deadlifts with a weight that is, again, 65, 70, 75, somewhere in that range of your 1 rep max. Today's workout is a perfect example. 9 reps of power cleans, 9 reps of front squats, then 9 reps of shoulder to overhead, all with the same weight. And it behooves you if you can do as big a sets as possible on that. I was trying to do every set of 9 shoulder to overhead unbroken. I just didn't want to pick it up again. When you're doing that over and over and over, and we're doing a workout that obviously today, a 23-minute AMRAP, so over 20 minutes, my heart rate is having to push blood to the working muscles through arteries that are experiencing a great deal of pressure continuously because I'm working them continuously. And there are very small breaks. The breaks were getting longer as I was going along, but still smaller breaks and then lots of time under tension while you're moving that weight. That is a very unique way to strengthen your heart, your arteries, your veins, and strengthen their health, their ability to handle blood pressure. And when you strengthen your heart and your arteries and veins in that way, your resting heart rate is going to become that much lower because your veins and arteries are used to handling incredibly high blood pressure levels for a long period of time. There's not many other training methods that train that kind of stamina and repeated efforts, reps in the 8, 12, 15, 20, even more range with weights that are lighter than like the weight we're using for strength, like 80% and above, but they're not nothing. It's not just doing cardio. It's not doing kettlebell swings with a 20-pound kettlebell. We're doing lots of swings with heavy kettlebells. And that rate pressure product that we're training keeps you, again, biologically younger and your body able to handle pressure in a way very few other training methods do that. On the strength, on the power and speed that I was talking about earlier, I don't know of any other training methods that people use as a general public other than CrossFit that trains that. I do know of a couple others that will hit this rate pressure product occasionally, but nothing hits it as often as we do. And so this is why, again, I was doing one of the episodes a couple times back. I was talking about leaving meat on the bone from your fitness perspective and being satisfied with, okay, I'm not sickly. Okay, yeah, that's the base standard. Then being like, all right, I'm doing good for my age, for the general public. Okay, great. Let's have higher standards for that. Let's see how far we can push the envelope from a fitness perspective so we can do things at 60 and 70 that previous generations would have never dreamed of. And that's what we're doing with CrossFit. That's why I say CrossFit being the fountain of youth. And that's what I think, even like listening to Joe Rogan, it made me think, I see lots of people that will look good and they're fit for their age. They're fit for their age. Then I see people in CrossFit that would be fit for any age, that would look good for any age. There are people, Greg Howard at Diablo CrossFit does stuff at 62. There are 20-year-olds that will never be able to do and wish they could for their whole life. And they would love to have his body at 62 right now for them at 23 or 27. And that is what the training methodology of CrossFit does that I think very few other methods do. And you don't just look good, you're also very functional and healthy. So those are two ways I think CrossFit very uniquely keeps us biologically younger and looking good. And it just makes life fun, guys. At 51, when I'm walking around knowing I can basically do anything physically that I want to, whatever the world requires, it's a very satisfying feeling. And having those of you around me at King William District CrossFit and Metfix Southtown that are still doing better than even me on this, it's just a great environment to be in. And that's why I think CrossFit is so unique and so beneficial for all of us and makes our life so much just better. Right on. Let me know what you think. Later.